Hey, welcome back to the Mindshare podcast. This show is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. And REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. Learn more about our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. And while you're there, be sure to download your free copy of my book, The Ultimate Marketing Bundle, as well as learn more about our one-to-one coaching. Also, when you get there, you're going to see a pop-up about our upcoming Mindshare happening in Toronto on May 29th and 30th. This is a 2-day event. It is going to be powerful. It is a small group, and I'm not giving you much more details than that. You just need to know it's happening in Toronto on May 29th and 30th. Go to myshow101.com, check out the limited details, get yourself registered, and make sure you're in that room. You don't want to be that person who walked out or sort of sat there after the fact saying, I wish I was there, I should have gone. And too often we make decisions based on price. Well, I don't want you to look at the price of what it's going to cost you. Instead, I want you to think of what it'll cost you to not be there. We also too often make a decision based on, will my friend go? This is not about your friend. This is about you. This is about the conversation you have in the mirror with yourself about wanting to go to your next level. That is exactly who this room is going to be filled with. Driven, motivated, like-minded individuals looking to do exactly the same thing as you. Get to the next level. We're going to be talking marketing. We're going to be talking branding. I'm going to have a whole bunch of my friends in that room that are going to help pump you up. And we're going to be collaborating and networking together. Again, this is a room that you want to be in. I want you to think instead of agenda and, are there going to be speakers and what's going on every single minute of the day? So I want you to think about the fact that we're going to have some amazing people in there, and the culture and the energy in that room is going to be at an all-time high. Again, you want to be there. Mindshow101.com, check it out, get yourself registered, and don't be that person who missed out. Today's episode is number 226. He's a sales representative with Century 21 BJ Roth Realty in Barrie, Ontario. Along with a solid work ethic, he possesses tenacity and the desire to get the job done correctly. His desire to not only meet, but to exceed his clients' expectations was fostered during summers off from university spent tree planting in northern BC, where he planted in excess of 750,000 trees. He believes in doing something that you love and helping others achieve their dreams. Having lived in 3 provinces, he understands the choices which are made when moving to a new community. And whether his clients are buying or selling, he always goes the extra mile to help them reach their goals. Once a recipient of the Century 21 Rookie of the Year Award, he is also an annual Pacesetter Award winner. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare podcast is Innisfil's very own realtor, Cory Seaman. Cory, welcome to the Mindshare podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, David.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad you're here. I know you and I get to have a lot of good conversations along the way on a regular basis about what's going on out there in the industry, in the market, what's working, what's not working. And I think today's going to be a really powerful conversation for a lot of people to just, again, take in, dissect, and get another opinion, another set of insights around what's working, what's not working. You got some unique things that you do out there. And if I say unique, I say hardworking, I say, the discipline that you put together to this business. All of it is obviously what's leading to your success. But I guess as I start us off, what's your take on the current state of the market? A lot of people talk about good, bad, they're wondering what's happening. What would you say is going on out there right now?
I think in the last month or so, we've really seen things start to heat up again. As buyers have gotten used to the mortgage rates for this year. And then as we saw this morning, it looked like they were holding the rates steady. So that's going to keep the buyers active, but we're still not seeing as many listings out there. So the listings are selling quickly as long as they're priced properly. And that's the biggest thing right now, is making sure that you're priced properly so that the buyers not only see the house, but that they make an offer on it as well.
And are we seeing a lot of agents pricing things properly right now? Or are we seeing things like what kind of pricing strategies are we seeing? Because I know a couple of years ago, we saw a lot of it where it was, hey, let's price it way under value. Let's try to get it over asking so we can create a lot of demand. I had somebody this morning tell me the supply is incredibly low. So demand is just naturally high, especially with the spring market rolling around. What are pricing strategies looking like right now?
I'm seeing a variation across the board with the pricing strategies these days. There's some agents that are still trying to hold offers, pricing $100,000 less, but then they're seeing one or two offers and not meeting seller expectations at the end of the day. I've always been a believer in just pricing with where we want it to be. And if it turns into multiple offers after that, then great for my seller. But price it at a realistic price that you're willing to accept from the start, and you're going to get the buyers coming in.
Yeah, it's interesting. I see, again, we're seeing a lot of different strategies on that. Like, again, there are people out there right now who are pricing it undervalue to try to drive the eyeballs. But I think at the same time too, in this current market, sellers have higher expectations for what the price is going to, for what the sell price is going to be. What is list price? But at the end of the day, what do they put in their pocket? And I think a lot of people have expectations to, what the market looked like, a year ago, a year and a half ago, and they expect to get those numbers. So it's interesting because if you do price under market value and you get people coming through, but you don't get that multiple offer situation, now you're not meeting the seller's expectations. Did your strategy work? And do they look back and go, hindsight's 2020, maybe we shouldn't have done it that way?
I think there's always going to be people that have hindsight on things or think maybe they should have waited a year. Somebody that sold in 2020 might regret that they sold in 2020 and didn't wait for 21 or 22.
Right.
But at the same time, none of us have a crystal ball, and you can't foresee what's going to come. And I have seen some listings recently where the seller purchased for, let's say, 1.8 million last year and just sold it for 1.6. So in some cases, I think it's reality of the mortgage rates has set in on those ones, and they can't afford to carry that mortgage, and they've been essentially forced to sell at a loss.
Are we seeing a lot of that right now? Are we seeing that starting to come up where people are realizing, like, hey, I'm up for renewal already. It's been 3 years or whatever, and I cannot afford at the rates that they're at right now?
I've definitely been taking a lot more phone calls in that regard lately. Largely from people who have tenanted properties, that the mortgage rate has increased their payment well beyond what the tenant's paying, and the tenant's been in there for 4 years or 5 years. And the landlord just doesn't want to carry that anymore. They don't want to be paying for the tenant to be in their house, and they're looking for a way out.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that over the next 12 to 24 months. Personally, I think, again, that 3 to 5 year renewal, depending on when people bought at the height of the market, lower rates. I think that as things start to come up, 1 + 1 = 2. There's going to be people that can't afford. I asked that question a lot prior to it happening. Where are people getting the money from? We're now there. I still don't understand where people are getting the money from. And I think that when people have to renew at a higher rate, it's going to cause people to have to get out.
And I fully agree with you on that, that we're in that period where the people who bought in 2018, they're up for renewals now. And it's a much different reality with rates than it was at that time. And if they were already maxed out on what they can pay for the house, they're beyond maxed out if they were on variable or just up for renewal. And they need to look for the cheaper options. And a lot of people are looking at moving out of province as a result.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about that as well. People going out west, people going out east. It's people are getting out of Ontario, that's for sure. It's an expensive place to be. But I will say this, I was in BC last week, and gas prices for regular are $1.85, which made me feel a lot better about our $1.56 that I'm seeing today here in Toronto. So, But what are people telling you when you're speaking to them outside? If you're doing your calls, I want to get into the marketing stuff in a few moments here, but as you're having conversations with people, on the overall, would you say that people do want to move, they don't want to move? What are the conversations like out there right now?
I think with a lot of people, they don't want to sell right now. They're seeing the doom and gloom in the media, and not the complete reality of the market. And a lot of them are thinking that if they sell now, they're going to sell at a loss. They're looking at last year's numbers and not the current numbers.
Right.
But you can never have hindsight when it comes to selling things like that. It's you can't hold on to BlackBerry stock and expect to sell it at $200 today when it's worth pennies if it even exists anymore, just because dollars in the past.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are looking backwards. So what would you say now? Like, I mean, outside of just rates or whatnot, is there any specific challenges that are, facing people at this exact moment? Like, is the media the biggest challenge we have right now?
I think it's the media, and if they're not really motivated to be buying or selling, a lot of people aren't going to do it. We saw the big blitz for cottage purchases in the last year or two with COVID, and nobody was traveling, so they all bought up in cottage country, and now we're starting to see some of those come up for sale at much lower prices than they were at the time too.
Sure, that big mass exodus to go north and think they could work from a distance. I know there was a few people that actually had to get back in the office, and rumor has it now that the banks and everybody else, basically the big office towers, let's say downtown, are starting to say to people, "There's no more of this work from home stuff. You got to make your way back in."
Yeah, they don't want to be clearing those towers and paying whatever the lease rate is to have a vacant building.
No, exactly.
Vacancy is not good for business.
So, speaking of business, where do you get most of your business from? Is it people you know? Is it people you don't know?
For me, it's a mix. I've got my database that is getting probably a lot more touches for me than a lot of people put in their database. Yeah. And then I'm also supplementing that by adding new contacts to it all the time largely through old school methods these days with the cold calling and the door knocking. And as you always say, being a hunter and not an order taker.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? I had that conversation with somebody as well this morning, just talking about, when it comes to prospecting, what can we be doing to prospect more? What can we be doing to keep ourselves busy? How can we keep our mindset in the right place? And again, everybody tuned in. Like, as I come back to that, if you're in that moment right now where you're not having the successes you're looking for, maybe you are, but maybe you're stressed out a little bit and you're trying to figure things out. I think one of the things that everybody really needs to pay attention to is what does your schedule look like? Right? You may look and say, I haven't got a lot booked for, I don't know, whatever, hypothetically, tomorrow, whatever tomorrow is, right? I haven't got a lot booked in there yet, but yeah, you may not have necessarily like meetings with people, but what are you doing to meet with yourself? And if I take that a little further, and Cory, you completely understand this one, but like from your schedule of your IPAs, your income producing activities, from the phone calls and the email and the social media stuff you have to do, the check-ins with clients that you have to do, the preparation on other things, the admin work you have to do for your business. What are you doing to go out and hunt and actually prospect out there right now? These are all the little things that need to be scheduled. And if they're not scheduled in the calendar, of course, you're going to have days that feel like there's nothing to do and like you're not having successes. And then, yes, mindset is going to take a toll. Right. But you just labeled off some of the old school methods. What are you finding is working and what's not working when it's coming to prospecting? And I'm talking about in this market right now.
I'm finding that the people that want to rely on social media for prospecting probably aren't getting the results they might have in the past.
Why?
And be a lot more direct and approaching the potential leads that you want. And if you want listings, you need to be out there. You need to get a good pair of shoes. It's nice and sunny today.
Oof, today's beautiful.
And get out and start knocking on some doors. You don't even need flyers. Just take a handful of business cards with you, introduce yourself. Don't ask them if they want to buy or sell at the door. Nobody wants to be talking about that, but just introduce yourself and say that you're an agent that lives in the area and you would love to help them if they do want to make a move. And even with cold calling, it's the same thing. I know when I'm making calls or when I'm door knocking that there's a certain percentage out of 100 that will answer the phone, that will answer the door. And then for every 100 contacts, not every 100 people I call and don't answer the phone, or that I knock on and they don't answer the door, for every 100 people that I actually speak to, a certain percentage of that will say that they would like to do something in the next year. And then a percentage out of that wants to do something a lot sooner. And if somebody says that they would like to do business in the future, then great. What time frame are we talking about? And they get added into the CRM for whatever way I deem is appropriate for reaching out to them after that point. And as we both know, follow-up is key in this business.
Oh, absolutely, man. Now let's go back to this for a second. I wanted to ask, like, as you were saying about, what isn't working right now. When we look at this market at the moment, you mentioned about social media, if we're waiting around right now, tell me more. Why do we feel that social media is probably not the be all and end all of our prospecting strategy right now?
I think a lot of people are they're inundated with seeing ads on there. whether it's for real estate agents or other companies, there's too much advertising on there, and it all just kind of blends in the background and gets tuned out completely. If I go on social media, usually it's Instagram. I largely avoid Facebook, like it's the plague these days. But when I go on Facebook, all I see is ads. I'm not seeing the stuff I want to see, or I'm seeing negativity from people, and that's not how I want my life to be based around.
Right.
So I just tune all that out.
What about Facebook is just, why would you say it's such a negative place right now?
I think there's a lot of people that like to hide behind keyboards.
Mm-hmm. I agree
And
with that one.
spout their mouths off on there, and especially in community groups or other groups.
So do you think though that when it comes to social, and I want to come back to prospecting in a second, but when it comes to social media specifically as a channel for prospecting, do we feel that it's still something we should be using? We should still be present, but maybe not spend as much time in there?
I agree with you on that. I think we do need to have a presence on social media. I personally don't schedule any time out of the day for social media. If you catch me on Facebook for 5 minutes of the entire day, that's quite a long time for me to be on there.
Yeah.
Instagram, I'll spend more time on, but it's more communicating directly with friends through Messenger on there.
Okay.
But at the same time, when I'm making a post on Instagram or making a post on Facebook, 80% or more is more personal stuff. It's life stuff. It's not saying, hey, I sold a house, or hey, I just listed a house. People that are seeing my Instagram and my Facebook know I'm a real estate agent. They know that I'm doing my job if I sell a house. They don't need to be hit in the face with that all the time.
And when you're posting, and I mean, listen, obviously I know what you're up to and what you're posting. And I mean, you take a whole bunch of vacations in a year. You know, you spend a lot of time doing your outdoor adventures, which I am so like, I'm going to be living through your Instagram this summer when you're doing all these crazy trips that you do. I mean, like, folks, if you don't know this guy, he will literally jump in a canoe, travel like hours north by himself with his dog, get into a canoe and go and like backcountry camp, again, solo. And the photos you take, the experiences you have, I mean, I get to hear them like, you know, one-on-one kind of when we're on the phone together, but that is some super cool stuff. And the beauty is, you know, especially as a big part of today's conversation, is that because of the prospect and because of the follow, because of the way you work your database, you don't miss a beat when you take these vacations. You come back and your business is still running, even if you've got no connectivity for a day or whatever, depending on how far north you are. You're still in control, and you still got business coming in. And I find that impressive in and of its own. You know, so just painting that picture for everybody as we come back to the idea of social. You know, I guess where I'm going with this is that I agree with you. It's a necessity. We should be there. But we don't want to spend every waking moment behind the keyboard and hiding behind that. We want to be out there talking to people. And you're leveraging it very much to talk to other people. You're also putting up a lot of lifestyle content. We'll see a lot about your puppy. We'll see a lot about, you know, the trips that you take and the adventures that you go on, and kind of like the little teasers of like where you're mapping out to go next, right? Like we see a lot of that stuff. And I would imagine, I guess maybe I would ask you, does that attract your people? Do people connect with you because of that? Do they tap into these posts and want to know more? Hey, where you going? Does it make conversations?
There's definitely a lot of people that come to my pages for that content.
Yeah.
And like when I go on my canoe trips, we're not talking Algonquin Park.
No, I know.
Places where I see people. If I go on a canoe trip on Canada Day and I see 2 people, that's going to be a lot of people in that area, because I'm going pretty remote crown land backcountry that isn't very well traveled. The portages are unmarked. Campsites might be pretty rough. And you see the glamorous stuff on the pages, David. You don't see these in waist deep mud, or looking at a cliff that I need to scale that's 20 feet up to get to the next lake because there's a massive waterfall beside it.
Or when you're just canoeing
it's
along.
It's still like anything else on social media where it's curated, and you see what the creator wants you to see. And maybe I should post some of the less glamorous stuff, but
well, I mean, how are you going to pull your phone out when you're rescuing 2 people from a capsized canoe in the middle of a ridiculous storm, and you actually help them get to safety? Because had you not been there, they may not be here. I don't know where
Well,
you
with that,
those moments, but I remember that.
I have a satellite communicator device attached to my PFD, and I wear my PFD 100% of the time when I'm on the water. I think it's kind of reckless if you don't. But yeah, that was mid-May last year. 2 people with no canoe experience, not wearing the PFD. I watched them capsize in the middle of a lake because they tried crossing when they really shouldn't have and got broadsided by waves. Dragged her to shore, which took quite a while, and she was borderline hypothermia at the time when she got on shore. And by that time, I already engaged the SOS button on the satellite device. And I think it was about 15 to 20 minutes after that when wardens arrived in a power boat. So I think both people were very fortunate to be out of the water as quick as they were. But like I said, she was borderline hypothermic by the time she got on shore. And it was a scary situation until the wardens took control of it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, if I'm ever going like north and like I would want you there just to make sure that like we survive.
Well, I've had a couple of situations where I've lost a canoe and had to use the satellite device to order basically somebody to come up and find an extraction point to get our group out. The canoe was completely totaled on a pile of rocks at the base of a waterfall. We misjudged lining canoes through rapids, and
crazy.
It was that was a scary and traumatic time, but everyone survived.
You see, this is okay. Now, the reason I brought this up was just to again come back to the fact that when we talk about social, because I understand your view on social, and you and I have a very similar view on that. We don't want to spend too much time aimlessly scrolling. When we do post, we're going to try to post, some personal stuff and share with people who we are, and that is going to attract people. And so as we come back and sort of circle this back to the prospecting point of it, social's one channel, and it's leveraged to connect with people and share about who we are. You also, though, you focus a lot of time and effort on the hardcore prospecting, like the real deal, old school stuff that, has always worked, still continues to work, that most people hate doing. Most people, they hate going out and doing it, and they hate being the person on the other end of it. The reality is, though, we're still seeing a lot of rewards from doing it. And both of those are words that I'm going to use right now that a lot of people are going to go and sort of gasp, but like cold calling, door knocking, you do a lot of both of those, and you see a ton of business from them. Tell us a little bit more about that and why it works so effectively for you.
I think to do either one, you need to have a thick skin. Yeah. And in this business, you need a thick skin to begin with. It's not easy out there in any capacity. And with cold calling, I've honestly made over 900 calls already this week, and we're on Wednesday. I've been told to go fuck myself 3 times and hung up on it. 2 people threatened to call the police this morning because they said cold calling was illegal in Canada, which is the first time I've ever heard that one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, outside of telling you about that right now, 30 seconds after that happens, I've already brushed it off and I'm on to calling somebody else.
How do you brush that off so easily? What's the deal to that? Like, I've literally just picked up the phone. You're all happy. You're trying to introduce yourself. I'm like, fuck you, man. Don't call me. Click. What do you do?
Because out of the other 100 people that I'm going to speak to that day, the other 99 are going to be nice. They're going to be positive. Most of the time I call, introduce myself, say that I'm a real estate agent, and you can almost tell right away if somebody's going to be interested or not. Sometimes you just hear their voice just drops, and I won't use a script on them at that time. It's just, okay, I don't feel like you're interested in selling. Have a great day. And they appreciate that. Sometimes that leads into a 5-minute conversation when they ask, hey, by the way, before you go, what's the market like these days?
So your leading is what? You introduce yourself. You introduce yourself and just see if they're open to more conversation. And if they're not, kind of keep it short and sweet.
Yep. There's no use pushing yourself on people. I know some people, sales tactics are don't take no for an answer, and nobody appreciates.
You're selling your house. No, you are I'm coming over there right now and putting a sign on your lawn. You can't do that, eh?
No, I don't know any case where that's going to work.
So now, when it comes to the door knock, it comes to the cold call, it's definitely a numbers game.
It's 100% a numbers game. And I've seen other agents basically in tears crying because they made 45 calls and nobody answered the phone.
Right.
And then they're asking me how I'm having success. And it's like, well, I made 200 calls and 25 people answer the phone. But yeah, I did go through a period where 50 people in a row didn't answer the phone. But every time somebody doesn't answer the phone, every time it says number not in service or somebody answers says they're not interested, every no is one step closer to getting a yes.
Oh, I agree with that 100,000,000%.
It's purely a numbers game.
Okay.
You just have to be willing to put in the time and commitment to hit those numbers.
And that's the beauty, because most people won't.
Most people are already done cold calling and door knocking for the year because they had no success on the 45 calls or doors that they made and knocked on.
Or they're done because they never even got started because they don't want to do it because it's the hard work and they think, oh my God, I don't need to stoop that low. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go spend money on online lead generation.
Well, and they think that online lead generation is working. That they're actually working when they do that. You spend 5 minutes putting together an ad and I've done my work for the day. Now all the leads are going to come in. All you're doing is throwing money into the wind at that point. And you have to schedule the hard work. You have to do the hard work if you want to be successful. And you look at who the top producers in this business are, and they're not sitting there on Facebook groups all day. They're not wasting time on social. They're out there putting in the work and doing what it takes to be successful. And they just don't have the time to be doing that stuff.
I'll double down on that right now.
Working the phones.
The other day, I was speaking at the Buzz conference, and there was a lot of people in the room, and I kind of went on an attack a little bit about all that stuff and the hoopla of the smoke and mirrors, the bright shiny objects. Here's what was interesting. I had a lot of amazing feedback when I got off stage from a lot of folks who came up and said, "Man, you told it like it was. You're saying the truth. Like that's what people need to hear." Now, I had that from a lot of different generations of agent. Okay, we had people that have been in business a long time, people that have been in business a short time, people that are younger, people that are older. Here was the one kicker, though. A lot of the folks who've been in the business for a number of years, we're talking those top producers you just mentioned. I'm talking about the top 1% to 2% in the country, who are all sitting almost front row in front of me because they're not new to this stuff. They're not worried about sitting at the front. All of those people came up to say, "Man, you told it exactly how it should have been told. People need to hear that message." And really what I'm saying is that those are the people you just talked about. They're the ones that are making the millions. They're the ones that are making the massive money. They're the ones that are not hanging out on social groups or social media all day long. They'll have a presence, but it's not the be all and end all of what they do. They know this is a people business and they continue to connect with other people in person.
Well, you just put it the right way there, that it's a business. And a lot of people don't run it as a business. They run it as a side hobby. And you have to be running it as a business. You need to be scheduling out your day. And to me, if I'm not meeting with a client, my biggest goal and my biggest job is to prospect for new leads. And I have set time every day. My morning from 9 to noon is prospecting. Clients can wait. And I dictate my schedule.
Hold on. What was that last line you just said?
Clients can wait.
Ooh, wow. How do you deal with that in your own mind to say, you know what, it's okay. They don't need me at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I did have a text actually from a client at 6 this morning.
but hold on.
To get a response, though.
Let's put it in context, too, though. At some points, there will be responses to clients. There have to be responses to clients. But at the same time, too, if you've got things that you're set out to do and you know that what the client needs at that moment is not actually a need at that moment, it can wait a few hours. It's okay to wait a few hours. And that's really the point that I'm trying to make.
And that's exactly it. You have to prioritize things. If there's an emergency situation with a client or something, if there's an offer that needs to be addressed by 10 or 11 this morning, then prospecting goes to the side and you deal with that.
Right.
But I find what clients will respect you more, leads will respect you more when you say, "I'm not available at that time. I'm spending time with family," or I'm just with another client.
Yeah.
And if I said to you, like, "Hey David, I can't meet with you at noon today, but how does 2 or 3 p.m. sound to you? Which time's good?" And clients respect that. They shouldn't be expecting to come to a real estate agent, knock on the door, and that you're ready and willing to drop everything all the time for them. You can't do that with your doctor. You can't do that with your lawyer. Why do you expect it out of a real estate agent?
That's a really interesting point. Because I had asked that question on stage the other day. I said, we do all these funny things, and then we ask why people want us to drop our commission. And we say, why aren't people taking us seriously and treating us like professionals? And you're absolutely right. The doctors and the lawyers don't work that way, and they are looked as professionals. You want to be looked at as a professional, you've got to act like a professional, and we've got to take it seriously. Now, Cory, why do you think so many agents lose out on so many opportunities to get the next deal?
I think a lot of it is that they might not take themselves seriously. They might not know the current market. Like before I go out door knocking or cold calling, I'm looking at what's going on in that area. I know what area I'm door knocking. I know what area I'm cold calling. And I have the market stats for that. I had a guy the other day I called and he said, yeah, well, we're thinking of selling the house across the road, sold last week. I said, and I read him the address and I said, yeah, they got 900. He said, oh, how did you know that so quickly? And that's how it should be. You should know what you're doing with everything. And I've had the commission talk. We all have that commission talk with our clients when we go to list a house. And a lot of them want the cheapest deal. But at the same time, the cheapest deal isn't necessarily going to be the best one for them and put the most money in their pocket. So with that, I have examples, which you know about, with deals I've done in the past where my client has paid my usual commission rate and come out $20,000 higher than the $25,000 higher before commission. The neighbor that went at it with a discount broker. So the neighbor looks at it as, hey, I saved $5,000, but in reality, they lost $20,000 by using someone that might not have been negotiated as hard for them.
So, okay, here, Rookie of the Year award winner, and that was obviously not this year. You've been in the business a while. But what would you? Kind of going back to that and just looking at what would you tell any new agent getting into the business right now? Because you had success in your first year.
I think, like for me, it was coming into the office every day.
Okay,
have a schedule, come into the office every day, get to know the more senior agents, talk to people, find out what works for them. Or in my case, my office, everyone outside of me basically has 15 to 20 years experience. That's a lot of knowledge to draw off of. But at the same time, the way that they do business now isn't the same way I did business when I started or the way I'm doing business now because they already have established clientele. So It's more talking to them and finding out how they got to that point that they're at now and what they did at the start. And I've spoken with them and I know what they did and the work that they did to get to be as successful as they are.
So if we said how do you stay focused and driven day in and day out? You already talked about your schedule. Now you're mentioning about going into the office on a daily basis. What are some of the things that you're doing to stay focused? Because again, we got a lot of people look, man, there's a lot of people that are going to be working really, really hard. And I'm speaking to you people as well right now, right? To you who's working hard, who's not having the success that maybe you're hoping that you would have. I believe, and Cory, share with us, I believe the discipline to that schedule and to the process of what you do in a day will help you stay busy. It will help you be more productive, and it will help the mindset be in the place it needs to be. So it keeps us focused. It keeps us driven. What else would you add to that? Or is that kind of, scheduling and office?
I think that all works. And there's nothing pretty about prospecting. Let's face it, nobody wants to be out prospecting. It would be nice if you could just do an ad on social media and the leads pour in. But with social ads, when you get a lead, how many other agents are getting the same lead when that buyer or seller signs up on multiple ads hoping to get different results and different listings from every agent that they sign up with? You're probably not the only one having that person. And a lot of agents just don't follow up. And as I mentioned earlier, follow-up is key. If somebody tells me they want to sell their house this spring, I'm putting them in my CRM. I'm scheduling for a monthly mailer to go to their door. I'm calling if they say they want to list in 3 months, I'm calling them in a month and a half or a month from now, depending on how the conversation went, and just touching base with them not necessarily asking if they want to sell in a month when they said 3, but just seeing where they're at on that process. And maybe things changed. Maybe they saw something different in the news, or family changed. They want to move before the school year starts. Like there's always going to be different factors. And as you know, I was sick for a large part of March. And there was one lead that I didn't follow up on, and they ended up listing with somebody else. But at the time, I was also way too sick to be calling anybody.
So tell me about that then. Like, how did you get back on track? You know, we all fall off the rails, and I don't know if I've put this out there yet to anybody. I mean, I know a few people know this thing, but I haven't really put this out there wide. I've been posting on my stories for, since September 1st, when I got into the gym and started really going hard with a goal of, just achieving. And I'd post on my stories on a regular, goals. And then people started asking me like, Dave, man, I haven't seen you at the gym lately. Like, I haven't seen you posting about it. And I literally just got back to the gym yesterday after a 4-week hiatus. And that wasn't because I fell off my discipline, but that was because I suffered a concussion at the top of the month. And I've been nursing that for the past 4 weeks. And that, for anybody that's gone through that, wow, like just unbelievable how it takes control of your head, the physical, the mental. It is, I won't get into all the details about it, but it can be a whirlwind, and it took me some time to physically get back. The one thing for me that I've really relied on is the scheduling, so that when I know that for me, I can fit it back in. Like, I knew last week when I got back from BC, I said, okay, I just got off my second, plane trip, let's call it, in the past 30 days with a concussion. I came back, I felt good. Worked all weekend doing maple syrup, lots of running and hiking and chopping wood and, whatever. Felt really good. So I said to myself, that's it. I'm going back to the gym this week. And so last week I scheduled it in for this week to get back there. And I've been back there twice now since I came back from the cottage. Tuesday, Wednesday. And I feel amazing. Now for me, getting back on track is putting in the schedule. What do you do? Because like you got sick for a little while. Again, those trips that you take, that you go on, which you're going to completely disconnect from society when you do them. We got to get back. When we get back, how do you do that? What are you doing?
With recovering from being sick, I found even with scheduling things, it was a lack of energy, and it was just trying to get done as much as I could each day, and still have the energy to function afterwards. And it was a gradual process. I was in Nova Scotia for a month back in the fall, and that was only supposed to be a 2-week trip, but I tore up some ligaments in my one foot, and driving a manual transmission car was a little difficult when you can't operate the clutch. And a 2,000 kilometer drive is way too far to go at that time. I had my laptop with me. I was still able to conduct business, and then anybody that needed anything in person, as I do with my canoe trips or anytime I go away, I speak to somebody in the office first, talk to them about what clients are doing things at the time, what files are on the go, what's closing, what might be coming soon, and keep them aware of what's going to happen, and then just have them take over or do the showings. And the big thing too is communicating with the client, especially when I go on those canoe trips. If I'm gone for 10 days with 0 reception, the client doesn't want to be trying to call every day. They're going to find somebody else after the first or second day of calling or texting or emailing and not getting a hold of me. So they need to be aware of what's going on, and that if I don't answer the phone, this is where I am, and give this other person a call, and they will take care of you to the same capacity that I can.
So it's the schedule, it's the preparation, and it's the coordination with somebody there that can support you when you're not physically present.
And communication.
Right. Yeah. Huge. Yeah. Communicating, massive. Right. So now as we talk about these awesome adventures and sort of, falling off, or not falling off, but, going off track, coming back on track. We've just talked about obviously how you keep up with business at the same time. And I know a lot of these trips that you take, because there's multiple vacations a year, talk to me about your goals. Talk to me, I guess we've just been really talking a lot about the scheduling, but, how do these multiple vacations fit into your business, into your life? Where does this come to goals? How focused are we on goals? Like, where's the driving force back there?
Well, I find with the goals, like as you know, like we set those back in October or November.
Yep.
And if I want to take 7 weeks vacation or 10 weeks vacation, I factor that in. So I'll have the income goal, and then the prospecting goal to reach that, and then we break that down every month. But I also, if I want 10 weeks of vacation, I also take that out of the schedule. So instead of 52-week year, we're working out of a 42-week year, and what needs to be done each month, further break that down into what needs to be done each week, and then daily. And you can even fine tune that down to hourly if you want. For if you're out door knocking, how many doors do you need to hit this hour? How many calls do you need to make? And it's not just the cold calling, it's the warm calling to your database as well. And that's where a large part of the business comes from, is the warm calls and talking to people you've done business with in the past, or people who already know you. And if they already know you, they're more likely to do business than if they're a completely cold lead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of going out to a lot of the people that know us, like us, and trust us obviously has to be at the forefront of everybody's follow-up plan and marketing plan and prospecting plan, because we know that that's where 79% of our business comes from. Now, as we do look out there, and we know that there are people that we are going to talk to that are strangers, and we know what the media is doing right now to paint the doom and gloom on the market itself. And, looking at the way, thousands and thousands of agents carry their business in thousands and thousands of different ways. What would you say we as an industry need to do at this current state right now to improve our image in front of, the consumers, the home buyers and sellers?
I think a lot of it is just being honest and real with people. Like, don't be fake. Don't be somebody that you're not. I showed up for a listing appointment last year, and had I shown up in a 3-piece suit, or probably even if I was wearing a tie for that appointment, he would have told me to get back in my car and leave. So it was the only reason why I got that listing was I was real and I was honest with them from the start. And they totally appreciated that. And they even said at then that any BS would have been getting your car and get off our property.
So here, as you talk about trust and credibility, talk to me. What's your take on all this brand new AI that people are leveraging right now to do all of their talking for them?
To be honest, I haven't even looked at any of it. I've seen a couple of news articles, and I don't feel I know enough to speak on any of it. I'm not going to go out and use an AI program to write a listing for me or to do anything else, though.
Yeah, I think in short order that's exactly the advice there. But I'd say don't use it to write the listing, the email, the social post, the video. Don't use it for any of that. What I think it's great for is to help people spark ideas, to help you get creative, to help you learn a little bit more. And if you prompt the system properly, you can get a lot of good information, but you've got to break that down for yourself and understand how that gets out there. Because one thing you don't want to be is caught by somebody who says, hey, really liked what you said about, can you tell me more? And you're caught as like a deer in headlights going, I don't actually know more. Right. And again, because it wasn't you speaking. So again, a big way to lose trust and lose credibility from people is, as you just said, to be somebody that you're not.
Well, that goes to anything that you're sending out.
Absolutely.
Like today we have the KITS e-newsletter going out to my database.
Yep.
But yesterday I got a copy of that newsletter and I read through those articles. Because if somebody calls me up saying, hey, Cory, I saw your email today and you spoke about mortgage rates, I can't just be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because then they're going to lose trust in me, and that's going to possibly be the end of that relationship. And they might find somebody else that can speak more to the topics that they want to speak about.
Yeah, we know it's a business that's built on relationships, right?
Yep, 100%.
So tell me this about, probably about 2 years ago or so, you decided it was time to hire a coach. And at the time, I'm curious to know, what was it that you felt you were struggling with, or what was it that you were looking for added help with back then?
A lot of it was accountability and just staying disciplined to the business and running it as an actual business and not a side hustle. I was already doing well on that, but there was key areas where I felt I could improve on, and scheduling was one of them. And now I know what I'm doing tomorrow. Before I get to tomorrow, I already have it scheduled out. And as I said earlier, if I'm not meeting or speaking directly with a current client or a potential client, it's time for prospecting during the day and making sure that you stick to that. And I think with the goals that were set back in October and November, those prospecting goals are pretty darn high for how many contacts there are. And it would be nice not to reach them because I'm too busy to be doing that. But at the same time, this industry can be like a roller coaster where you're too busy and you stop the prospecting and work with all active clients. But then once all those active clients are closed deals, then you have nothing in the pipeline anymore. So you always have to have that balance between prospecting and active, which is why I said I take that 3 hours that I try as hard as I can to dedicate towards prospecting every day and always keep the pipeline full. Always have the deals coming in and consistent business. And that's where having coaches really helped out, is just somebody to kind of kick me in the butt if I fall off of that and if I'm not doing what I need to be doing to sustain it.
So you had pinpointed the issues, and then it was time to essentially find somebody. What was your next step in that search? Like what did you do to kind of go, okay, I know I want to bring somebody on to help me out. I kind of have a sense of what I'm looking for help. Where did you go next? What did you do? Did you go Google, social media, talk to people? What was the next step in the hunt there?
I think the next step on the hunt was finding somebody where I felt like I related to them, and that there was a good ease of conversation, and we were on the same page with the goals and what needs to be done. And there's a lot of coaches out there that I didn't feel that with when I was looking through the coaches, and then finally settled on one of them, of course.
Well, I was gonna ask you on that. Like what did you see, I guess, maybe that sort of led you to call us? And obviously you and I had crossed paths several times over the years prior, just between speaking at events and sort of bumping into each other at places. What was it though that maybe, led you to call us and then decide to work with us?
I think a lot of it was the familiarity. And when you would come to one of our events, that it was easy to approach you and speak about things. You're open to talk to people, and a good, honest approach. And there's no BS. You're not going to sit there and tell me to do something that doesn't work, just so that it looks like I'm doing something to conduct business. It's everything we talk about is to drive business forward and to drive growth.
I was going to ask you that, like when we're having the conversations, to give somebody maybe an experience of like what those conversations are like through, from call to call, that experience every time we chat. What would you say that experience is like?
I think it's mostly a positive experience every time. If it's not a positive experience, it's something I've done that wasn't to meet the goals for that week. And by the end of every call, we always have that little checklist of this is what needs to be done this week. And we go through what works and what's not working at the time. And if something's not working, then why keep beating a dead horse? Why do you keep doing something that doesn't work? And let's try this other avenue instead.
Do you find those action steps, that checklist at the end, is always helpful? Like to say, okay, we've just spoken for X amount of time. You're about to walk away and go, and it's time to implement, right? Like we got to take what we talked about. We got to take what we brainstormed about. We got to take the challenges we solved and the problems we went over and the mousetrap that we continue to build on, and we've got to continue to execute. Do you feel those action steps are helpful for you? Do you find that they're guiding you kind of in between those calls to kind of know what needs to be done?
100% they are. And like I think you're going to notice on our next coaching call, that I'm definitely making up ground that I lost with being sick for March. And that's a lot of ground to make up for when you lose a month, especially in spring. But there's that added motivation to catch up and to get all that done and still reach the prospecting goals that I had this spring. And I think we're on track for that.
And you find the text line and so everybody understands right now, I'm asking some very pointed questions that I have not asked to Cory, either offline or prior to the show. He's not prepared for any of these. So I'm just kind of hitting him over the head with like some real blunt questions, and just trying to give everybody here a sense of what the experience looks like and what, real live, feedback. Well, what are you taking from it? I mean, we've got this text line, and in between phone calls, that text line is open, and you can text me anytime you need. Do you find that that's a helpful add-on to, the process of coaching?
I definitely find it useful. And sometimes everything can be going well, and then suddenly something happens, you get a curveball thrown at you and you're off the rails, and there's no time to wait for another 3 or 4 days or a week for the next call. It's, hey, I need some advice on this now. And then I can text you and I know I'm going to get a timely answer. And it gets me right back on track and off we go.
So what would you say when people are working with us? What can they expect from the experience? Let me say this. A lot of people come in, look, we've all got something we need to fix. Every single one of us has things that we need to fix, things we can improve on, ways that we can get better. And many people are looking for help. Many people are looking around going, okay, what can I do to be there? What can I do to get there? And, when it comes to coaching, a lot of times what happens is, and I probably said this to you a few years ago, but I'm not Amazon. I'm not delivering you a box now that you started with us. You're not going to get something in the mail tomorrow to go, yes, I paid for it. Okay, I've got it. This is about a journey. This is about a custom tailored journey for you to help you get to that next level that you want to get to. And I think a lot of people are hesitant because they don't know what they're going to get. They don't know what it's going to shape out to be. What would you say to people who are sitting there on the fence about coaching, who are sitting there on the fence going, I need to find somebody, I need to improve, or I need that accountability? What can they expect from us?
I think what they can expect is that you're going to give them the toolbox that they need to be able to fine tune the processes and the systems that they have. And like anything else, everybody can fine tune what they do. LeBron James has a coach, Connor McDavid has a coach, and these guys are at the top of their profession, but they're still working with somebody to fine tune the process all the time and bounce ideas off of. And in business, you have to have that. And you give us the tools that we need, and then it's a matter of just working with those and making everything better. I already knew I needed to be scheduling everything or be doing the prospecting, but there's the accountability that comes with having the coach on that as well. And are you sticking to the schedule? Are you doing the steps you need to do to be successful?
Cool.
And if I'm not, then kind of get rained over the coals for it.
Well, we're gonna hear about it for sure. But I mean, look, we need that push, right? We need to take ourselves to that next place. And you said that well with LeBron and with Connor. We look at some of the best business people in the world, musicians, artists, business. They've got coaches, they got people pushing them, and I think that I was very fortunate. As I started my on the speaking career side of mine, that I had some really amazing mentors that were there for me to pump me up and to share with me and to teach me, to help me get the tools and cultivate those tools I needed to go to my next level. But they were also the first people to tell me to sit the fuck down, right? Wipe the smile off my face and get my shit together because I got things I need to fix. And those happen in closed rooms, closed doors, but you come off and you're feeling good. And, all of a sudden they're like, okay, don't ever do this again. And you're like, oh my God, like I did that. They're like, yeah. I'm like, in front of a whole room of people, I said that. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. And you learn. And I think that just having that guidance, that mentorship for any of us is absolutely crucial. And man, it. We love what we do over here. We work really, really hard to try to help you get to your next level, and everybody that we are so grateful and fortunate to be able to work with. I mean, for me, my coaching clients are right up there at like number one in my world. It's important that, you're hitting those levels you want. I take a lot of pride in that. I thank you, and I thank every single person who entrusts in us, to do that and to help them with that. So, end of the day, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
I think if I've made a positive impact for somebody, or just changed their day for the better. There's been some people I've spoken to where they've definitely not been having a good day at first, and the way that you approach them and having positivity and being nice really goes a long way. And I've definitely seen it a couple times where it's made somebody's day by just ending a call by saying, hey, David, have a good day today.
That's awesome. Good. You see, again, once again, it has nothing to do with money. It is all about helping other people and making people smile. Cory, give us some final words. Anything that you could share with anybody to help them get out there, build more mind share, just some parting words so that they can go out and, get some more market share.
I think as I said earlier, it comes down to doing the prospecting, especially this time of year. and have the thick skin. Don't worry about what somebody says to you if it's negative. Most people are going to be positive when you speak to them. And don't be afraid of failing here. Don't be afraid of somebody saying no, because the more no's you hear, just puts you one step closer to getting a yes and getting signed paperwork in hand.
It's a great piece of advice right there. The more no's you get, the closer you get to a yes. It's awesome stuff, man. I'm really excited for all the success that you're having and the fact that, the wave is happening for you. I'm also really super pumped to be able to follow you over the next number of months as you take these incredible vacations and these journeys of yours. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you to speak further, if they've got, if there's referral opportunities to share with each other, or if they even want to just follow the amazing adventures that you take throughout the year?
I think either directly on my phone or through Instagram is the easiest way. So
what's the Instagram handle?
Really Facebook. Cory.Seaman.C21.
Cool. Make sure you check him out, follow him on Instagram, visit the website, connect with him. I can say personally, a very down-to-earth individual, a Leafs fan just like myself, so we get sometimes a little bit sidetracked talking hockey, and if I get into that with you right now, we're going to spend another hour, so I'm not, but I am happy that they beat Tampa last night.
That's the first time that got mentioned in this conversation.
Yeah, I know. I tried to stay away because I'm like, oh man, we're just going to go down like the wrong path here today, and it's going to be a very hockey talk type of podcast, but well, here, just before we sign off, what do you think? Leafs, are they going to beat Tampa in the first round?
6 games.
6 games. Ooh, you're the second person to tell me that today. Somebody texted me last night. He says to me, or this morning, he's like, "Hey man, what a game last night." I'm like, yeah, it was good, but it's always got to be a nail biter, and it bothers me because we're going to the into the playoffs against these guys. But the nice thing was that they were able to hold it down and actually not concede a tying goal at the end and actually win the game in regulation time. So,
well, here's a bold prediction, David.
Yeah,
I don't think Boston makes it to the second round.
Oh, I'm kind of with you on that. If we
Whether they
learn from Florida last year, right?
Boston's already playing at their highest level. Every other team is going to step it up in the playoffs, and Florida and New York are built for it.
Oh, it's exciting, man. Well, let's see what happens. Cory, thank you, man. Really appreciate you joining me on the Mindshare podcast today. As always, a pleasure, and I will talk to you again very shortly, my man.
Thanks for having me, David.
Thanks, bud. You're either listening to this on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're there, be sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle, our 31-page ebook, including your free 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you get more market share. A reminder as well that if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve, and how we will help you do just that. Also, make sure to get registered for our small group mastermind taking place on May 29th and 30th in Toronto. This is going to be 2 powerful days of collaboration, networking, and big problem solving. Don't forget to leave a review of this podcast at www.ratethispodcast.com/Mindshare101. And of course, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems and REM Magazine for sponsoring the Mindshare podcast. Be sure to visit our site to learn more about what these powerful companies will do to help you grow your business. This has been another episode of the Mindshare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.